Timmy, breakfast! Aw, Dad, cereal again? Can't we get something hot and different? The next morning. Timmy, breakfast! What's this? It's hot and tastes super sweet and sugary. Well, that's Johnny P's cream of rice. Has your family tried it, Johnny P's? Oh, has your family tried it, Johnny P's? Oh, Johnny P's cream of rice so filled with sugar it tastes so nice. Oh, has your family tried it, Johnny P's? Johnny P's cream of rice. For now, only sold north of the Mason-Dixon at a fine food store near you. Johnny P's cream of rice.
This is Eric Andrews, CWF Worldwide Television Champion. You're listening to the official, unofficial CWF Worldwide After Show.
Oh, shit.
Wow.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
I keep doing the Brown Suns, oh, God thing.
For going on 2 years now, the guys here on the network make fun of me for it, no less.
Trevor Lee!
There you go. The host, ring announcer, sometimes brilliant commentator, the lovely CL Party. CL, how are you doing tonight?
I am great. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much.
The technical director of CWF Mid-Atlantic, the one and only Grant Sawyer. Thank you for joining us, Grant. How are you?
Oh, thanks for having me back, buddy. I'm happy to fill in because, I'm just sitting around listening to you guys anyway.
I could be in that building at Absolute Justice and cut a fart.
Mm-hmm.
6 years later, they're going to be like, whatever happened to that badass Joe White sitting in the third row cutting farts?
Right.
Everything fucking means something in this place, and I love
What
it.
you want, White?
You're supposed to remember shit.
Mm-hmm. They don't insult your intelligence.
Damn right they don't. None other than the one, the only, Sis. Sis, how are you doing tonight?
I'm fantastic.
This Johnny P, John Philip Pavage, is going to be joining us. How are things going?
Oh, good. I got a break from editing because you're calling me.
Okay.
So
I have to
I still
ask.
have to do everything. It's just that I get to pace myself better. I guess.
I have to ask because you mentioned it.
Yeah.
What are you editing? Again, that music can only mean one thing. We are joined by the current, reigning, defending, rising Generation League champion of CWF Mid-Atlantic, and that is Mr. Kane Justice. What's up, Kane?
What's up, guys? And by the way, it is the record setting. I've defended the belt 8 times.
There you go.
More than anyone else in history. All about Kane now, man.
Bruce Mitchell is joining me right now on the line. How are you, Bruce?
This week I have done shows with Wade Keller, J.J. Dillon, and WWE Hall of Famer, another WWE Hall of Famer, Stan Hansen, Gerald Briscoe, WWE Hall of Famer, Jim Ross. And now the highlight of the entire run, it's built to this, been like a great wrestling program. I've been climbing that ladder, and now I'm here on the blow-off show, the blow-off match. You're it, man. You transcend all those guys.
I was going to go the opposite of that and say, look how the mighty have fallen.
No. You had to build my way to this show, the CWF.
I appreciate
Unofficial,
it, sir.
official.
I'm with Trevor on this one.
Oh, come on.
I'm with Trevor on this one.
Come on.
You got Cecil on the air going, oh, maybe it won't be one of these guys that's here. Maybe it'll be a new guy to dethrone him. Well, how about this, Cecil? Nobody's going to dethrone him. How about that? That's right, Trev.
I love this show.
This is CL Party welcoming you to the unofficial CWF Worldwide After Party with Joe White.
And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the official, unofficial CWF Mid-Atlantic After Show. We are going to be covering episode 125, 125 episodes of Worldwide. Man, that's a milestone right there in and of itself. And joining me tonight, again, either he's a glutton for punishment or he just enjoyed being here last week. It's JB Jeremy Bryan. How are you doing, JB?
Just wonderful, Joe. How's things with you?
I'm doing wonderful today, all things considered, man, and that's going on in the world. But thank you for reaching out again, and thank you for coming back on.
Absolutely, a lot of fun.
So let's start off here with the obvious. Any FanCon news for us this week?
Yeah, we got a little bit we can talk about. A few mentions before we get into the news. Want to thank, of course, our primary sponsor, PW Ponderings. who has backed us all the way on this endeavor. When John, Philip Havage, and myself came up with this idea and started talking about it, we never thought we'd even have a sponsor jump out for us the first year, but we're sure glad that they jumped aboard. Also, a plug for John as well. Tonight, it could be already downloaded, I'm not sure, but John's CWF Road Diaries on the Place to Be Nation Pro Wrestling Only podcast feed. It's a great companion piece to understand a little bit of the inside and the outsides of what's really going on at CWF. If you've not listened to those, go back and listen to all those. They are in the archives. Something else mentioned this week by CWF management to me, VIP seating was almost sold out for the event already.
Nice.
And could be by now already. I mean, it could be completely sold out at this point. Not really sure, but as of my last discussion with them yesterday, almost sold out. Of course, if you're not following us already, at FanCon CWF on Twitter, all the latest information up there. CWFFancon.fancon@gmail.com is our email address if you have particular questions. And of course, our catered dinner on Friday night, which is October 13th, is brought to you by Little Italy of Burlington. I know Joe's already been perusing their website to look at the menu.
Oh, yeah.
If you're down for some good Italian food, and we're talking about authentic Italian, not run-of-the-mill, quick Italian meals.
This isn't
real
Cousin Vito.
deal.
This isn't Cousin Vito's on the corner. I mean, anytime.
No.
I said it Monday on our Raw review show. Anytime that you look at an Italian restaurant, especially down here in the South, because it's hard to find good Italian here in the South. Anytime you look at a Italian restaurant's menu and they have an entire section dedicated to veal, that's how you know it's real.
it's real deal with the veal, right?
That's right.
So coming up, of course, we have all these things, but a couple of things we want to really key in on tonight. We have our panel host have been named.
Oh.
So our discussion panel, our Q&As, joining us will be one of your former guests from the Pro Wrestling Torch, senior columnist Bruce Mitchell. Will be hosting the panel for the our Legends panel and Storytellers panel. And one other panel host, none other than the antagonizing, yet very talented, in my opinion, Mr. Jerry Carey. He will be actually hosting the Hills panel, the traditional Hills panel.
Of course.
Of course, why not? On Friday night, and our traditional babyface panel is going to kind of be up in the air right now. We've got some ideas, and we're still looking at that, and we'll see who we're going to roll over to that role. But obviously, FanCon, we've already heard, as of last week, at my last count, 13 different states, of people coming from 13 different states for this event.
That's what's up.
Something that I never would have imagined. Actually 14. I'm sorry, 14. We had someone else who I picked up after that. But 14 different states who have already said they're going to be here for the FanCon and CWF Rumble weekend. Totally amazing. Something we never thought would have happened. And we are just excited to get things started next week.
I will have to say, Johnny P's Cream of Rice is not a sponsor of FanCon.
It is not. It is not. But in the vein of those great parody commercials from yesteryear, from SNL or whatever stand-up show you're looking at, nice work on that, Joe. Some inside baseball knowledge there with the Johnny P's sugar on the grits or the rice in this case, from rice. But a nice little addition to tonight's episode. And to kind of give you a little bit of a teaser, I'll leave you with a little teaser here at the end about FanCon. One of the participants who has been named for the Rumble is going to quite possibly be, I guess you'd say, hosting something. We're hoping something that is going to be unique, fun for the fans, and something that we all are looking forward to. Pretty sure on the 100 here, I'll be on the 100 here with you on this, that it is going to be a show stealer for FanCon.
Oh, wow.
I won't go any further than that. We got to leave a little bit of, a little meat on the bone there. You got a little mystery for everybody to kind of figure things out. But it will take place on Saturday. It will be one of our culminating things on Saturday to close out the events at the CWF Sportatorium, where FanCon is taking place on Friday night and Saturday morning. Joe, know you're going to be at FanCon. Know you're looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it. Nervous as hell at the same time for it.
Yeah.
It's quite an undertaking that John and I have been putting together, and of course I'm kind of been the boots on the ground here in North Carolina, as John is up in outside of Allentown, Pennsylvania. So a lot of it has kind of been riding on my shoulders, and but I'm glad to do it. Looking forward to making this an annual event, and can't wait to make my way back up Interstate 85 and on my way to Burlington, Gibsonville area.
I was going to ask you, and I meant to ask you this last week, to now go and be in, you said you were in radio, and a lot of radio is is sales. I don't know if you've ever been into sales aspect.
I work sales now.
Well, so there you go.
I'm in sales now. I own my own business, and I do sales.
So what is it like? So you're kind of accustomed to this, but from a wrestling side of things, what's it kind of like dealing? I know your background. You have an educational background kind of right now.
Yes.
And you have a radio background, but pro wrestling is an entirely different animal. When you approach people and go, "We're holding a wrestling FanCon," how has this been? How has this journey been for you?
It's interesting. It's interesting when you go into businesses or you're dealing with local businesses, not even just local, but even online, just talking to people about products and things that you need, or like you're purchasing things. And like I purchased an item today, and it was something kind of custom just for the event itself. And when I did this, they were asking, what is CWF? What is Mid-Atlantic? It's wrestling. Okay, well, is this like something that's related to, WWE, or is it amateur wrestling? And you go through a myriad of questions, and you got to go through all this, and it feels like that deep dark secret that we all try to hide, that we all don't need to talk about, but we feel like we have to once we get open and start talking to someone. And then once you find out, they find out what you're doing, and then you talk about this is not just a wrestling event. This is a place where a lot of friends, and it's almost like a family in many ways. This extended family that is CWF. We've built this weird amalgamation, this weird family that's dysfunctional as hell, but we love it. We're all kind of together, and events like this kind of brings us together. So in some ways, it's almost like this weird family reunion, and a world that's bizarre, that we all love and we all enjoy. But talking to businesses about what you're doing, it's a bit different. The approach. But for me, when I go in and talk to anyone, it's me being real and honest about what we do. And we're hoping next year to grow this thing to a different level. John and I said out from the beginning that we thought if we could get 15 people from out of state or out of the area to come into town for this, we would be happy. Well, we've surpassed that.
Nice.
And talking to CWF management, they are just ecstatic about the fact that we're bringing in new eyeballs to have a personal experience at the Sportatorium. There are fans already online who've been watching the show, who are dedicated to watching the show each and every week, but this is their first time getting to step into the Mid-Atlantic Sportatorium, which, as you know, is a unique and special place for professional wrestling.
That's the happiest place on earth, man.
It is. It's our home little Disney World here in the middle, in central North Carolina. But we're happy, we're ecstatic, and nervous as hell at the same time, like I said earlier. And I'm going up on Thursday evening, or actually Thursday afternoon, staying at the headquarters, our hotel, the Ramada, for the weekend. I'm staying, and John is driving down Thursday afternoon. He'll be on Thursday evening as well, and that way we're there bright and early Friday morning, so we can start coordinating and making things happen before you guys show up Friday evening at the Sportatorium.
It's weird. I know this is completely kind of off base, but I was watching, of all things, High Spots recently did a Hermie Sadler shoot interview.
I've heard about this.
And I watched it, and it's actually very freaking cool because I'm a racing fan. Those of you who have watched my videos on the channel know I love me some NASCAR. It's probably the only redneck bit I have in me is my NASCAR love.
And pro wrestling's not, right?
No, it's not. Sorry. I consider myself a Yankee trapped in a Southerner's body. I like Northern food. I'd kill for a good deli around here. That's all I'm going to say. But
they don't exist. I trust me on that one.
Oh, man, it sucks, too. If you ever been up north, you know, you can't find cream of rice down here, that's for sure. But anyway.
Well, back on the journey here. Let's go.
So I'm watching this interview, and he's talking about how when he used to do his UWF shows, which I actually managed Petey Williams on one of those shows.
Interesting.
Yeah, he did an auction for one of his daughters, or one of his daughters has autism. So those two capital punishment shows that he did in Richmond, Virginia, were to support autism. And part of that, they did a charity auction where you could pay to manage a superstar. They're on one of their shows, and I got to pay. I believe I paid $300, and I am not ashamed to say it because it went to a good cause. And Petey Williams is one of my favorites, and I'm glad he's actually back, so to speak. And I got to manage Petey Williams on one of those shows, and they were fantastic. But he's talking about how similar to what you're having to go through to get sponsors and going around, you know, kind of spreading the word about what we're doing here. And kind of how it's outside the element of racing, and how it's outside of his element. So I guess in a way, after hearing both of you guys, it's different, but it's the same. For you, it may be a little bit more different because you're not Hermie Sadler, but
no, I'm not.
But anything else about FanCon before we get into episode 125 of Worldwide?
Not really. I think we've kind of hit on all the high spots there, what we really need to talk about. Just keep on checking out what's going on at FanCon CWF on Twitter. We are going to update more things as we go along. We've given out quite a bit. If you are attending, please contact us via direct message or by email, or myself or John Filipavage for the head count for dinner on Friday night. We have a pretty good number already listed. But we've had some people who I know have purchased tickets for the show itself, and actually got word tonight that a couple of people who I wasn't expecting to come are actually going to be there that weekend, who are CWF regulars who have not been around for a while, which I'm excited about. And it's just going to be a great experience for everybody. I've dubbed this a fan experience by the fans for the fans.
That's right.
And that's really what we're doing here. Something that's not. You know, this wasn't a brainchild of CWF itself. Management, nobody was involved in this. It was just two fans like John and myself who had experience with these in the past. I had experience with Smoky Mountain Wrestling fan weekends as a teenager. He was attending ECW shows and going to, you know, their cyber events for internet fans long before anything like this was even thought of back in the day. But we were doing those kind of things, and we thought that this would be a perfect time to make this happen. And it's worked out so far, and it's not even started, in the fact that we've just had such a great response from people, and we're just happy about that.
Let me ask you, because you mentioned the cyber slams of ECW, and those were broadcasts over the internet, which was a very early medium at the time. Obviously, they don't have Wi-Fi in the Sportatorium, which, thank God. Thank God. But are any of these, and maybe this is something that Grant can answer because Grant's head of technical, are any of these panels or anything going to be filmed and then later put up on?
We actually discussed that at one point, and actually had an outside source even beyond Grant who was wanting to be involved with that, and it's just not coming to fruition this year. We kind of want to almost leave it as you had to be there to experience it the first year to really get an idea of what's going on. To be honest, I think that's even better. I think people just need to know that this is something that's going to be unique. Some of these guys, as we well know at CWF, are not going to be there forever. They're just not. And this could be one of those years where you get a chance to sit down and listen to people tell stories in an intimate setting and get to ask questions and get answers back from some of your favorites. And they may not be around next year. They may not be around for the next 2 or 3 months. They could be gone somewhere else. Who knows?
Yeah.
CWF has been a breeding ground for great talent that's moved on already. And don't be surprised to see, 2 or 3 more make that next step.
Let's get into Worldwide this week. And by the way, I fully agree with that. I went to the Johnny P School of Broadcasting and downloaded a voice recorder app for my phone, and we've been invited to film some of the panels. I will say the only panel that you guys are going to get to hear on this channel, besides the Radio Row stuff I'm going to be doing, if it's okay with JB and all the brain trust there at FanCon, which you guys put it out there, so I guess it is, I'm going to try my best to try and tape the Friday night Q&A, because I think that's something that everybody needs to hear. I
think so too.
So, other than that, you're going to get Radio Row, and I've been annoying the hell out of my family the last month because of this. I'm constantly testing my equipment because if something works one day, it's not guaranteed to work the next because of technology. So I've been bugging everybody around my house with testing crap and not being places I should be because I'm worried about this. So I'm nervous as hell for it too, because this is probably the biggest thing as far as podcasting or internet radio that I've ever done. But let's get into Worldwide this week. Hate to start it off on a down note, but we're gonna. We lost a lot of people. 2 people in the wrestling world this week. Lance Russell, obviously, and then we open up Worldwide this week with Scott Island. Is it Eland or Island? I can't remember the pronunciation of it.
It's Scott Island.
Island, okay. It's funny how they showed a graphic of him being in AIWF Mid-Atlantic, which, for those of you who don't know what AIWF Mid-Atlantic is, AIWF is kind of like what a PWI or NWA is. It's a sanctioning body, quote-unquote sanctioning body, and they have different promotions around, kind of like how, again, CWF is with PWI. And their Mid-Atlantic one, they operate a lot around West Virginia, Mount Airy, North Carolina, and Scott Island was one of their commentators, and I actually got a chance to go up at an AIWF show and shake his hand once and talk to him a little bit. I talked to him along with a buddy of mine who's in the business, a great guy by the name of Phil Stamper, who is one of the people who turned me on to CWF, because he puts out a weekly list of independent shows running across the world, really. But I got the chance to shake the man's hand and actually talk to him a little bit. He's one of the nicest people you'd ever want to meet. Have you ever met Scott Island before?
Scott, I got to know Scott quite a bit over the last couple of years. Saw Scott at a lot of shows. He's been to CWF, of course, quite a few times, and he was nothing but a gentleman. Just a great guy, super nice guy. And people always say, when someone passes, you always hear the truth, and the truth is that Scott was a wonderful person, and he definitely be missed. And I thought that Brad Stutz did an excellent job of honoring his memory tonight. And to be honest with you, when he laid the mic down on the apron, I was a little misty. It was Scott was just a gentleman and a great human being, and he's going to be missed. And he had nothing but kind words to say to everyone when you had a chance to talk to him. He was a podcaster. He was a broadcaster. He was involved in the wrestling business for several years and at a lot of different levels, and worked for several promotions throughout the Carolinas and the Mid-Atlantic region. And honestly, we lost a good one. He lost a good one there with Scott. Scott was just a gentleman and a super nice guy, and he will be missed.
So after we got that touching tribute, we moved in, and I was surprised this week. I didn't go on the CWF Twitter page a lot this afternoon because I was busy cooking dinner and taking care of the family and all that good stuff, making sure the kids got their homework done, being being a dad, which
Nothing
is
wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that.
something I don't get to do very often because of this FanCon thing happening. But which that's nothing wrong with that either. But I was surprised to see this was an RGL show tonight.
I was too. I actually didn't. I kind of that was hinted around last week on Twitter a little bit by some people from CWF. I was excited to see that it was an RGL special because we get to see some new talent. We get to see some new faces, and it's the future generation. And we also got to see some familiar faces as well.
I remember we asked Grant. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. I believe I asked him about the RGL tournament and if any of those matches were going to be shown. And he goes, if they're good, they will be. Well, these had to have been good because they're being shown. Either that or they needed an episode. Which, hey, it is what it is sometimes. Sometimes you need content. You need to fill a week. This filled it, and it filled it beautifully, if you ask me.
I thought so too.
Another thing that kind of was crazy, and this is not something that, Grant usually insider deal here. I've never asked Grant to do this. He just started doing this, but he didn't do it this week. I guess he was busy, which, hey, the man didn't have to start doing it in the first place. But he usually sends me a run sheet of the matches, how long the episode is, what number it is, which... First time he sent me that, I was shocked as hell. I was like, oh, sweet, I get to know before everybody else. But I was kind of marking out, as I tend to do. But I didn't get one this week. So when I didn't get one this week, I was like, okay, what's up here? I was waiting for a Twitter message to come in from Grant. And when it didn't, I was like, oh, shit, RGL, that's kind of cool. It was a nice surprise. Started off with Ethan Alexander Sharp taking on Bellamy Koga.
Yes, Bellamy Koga.
And we have to follow rule number 1 here on the After Show. Thou must always put over CL Party, and the beautiful CL Party doing an excellent job at commentary this week. I'll throw it to you first, JB. What did you think of this match here?
Well, I thought that number 1, Bellamy Koga came out and has a unique look. Out in kind of the almost the kickboxing type gear. A totally different look. And then Brad tells you that he was trained by the Boogie Woogie Man, Jimmy Valiant, which threw me off totally. A guy in kickboxing gear, and he was trained by the Boogie Woogie Man. A crossover there. But he's going against Ethan Alexander Sharp. And Ethan Alexander Sharp, people, if you're not paying attention, pay attention now. The guy has changed. He has grown into this character. It is moving, it's evolving, it's changing. This is exactly what you want when you see guys coming up through the RGL and then onto the main roster. This guy is the real deal. He really is. He's got a lot going for him. And my favorite thing during this whole match, and this is the big thing I wrote down, was I loved watching Ethan scream at the kids and the kids screaming back at him in the audience.
Yes.
He was working the crowd extra hard. And that audience in an RGL show is a little bit different makeup than you get at a traditional show. There's a lot of young kids there, and I love seeing that too. And seeing them, with a high pitch sound, a squeal, if you will, I guess in some instances, they're really getting on the hill, and the hill's coming right back. Good old school psychology there, and it still works. Ethan Alexander Sharp really worked it tonight when it came to that. His biggest thing is, for me, his biggest change is his aggression in the ring.
Yeah.
That's something that people are kind of, I think, not really giving him credit for. His aggression has been stepped up huge, and that change is evident each and every week he comes into the ring. Overall, I thought Bellamy Koga had a good showing. He showed some nice moves, but in the end, of course, EAS going over, and he moves on. He moves on, and we get to see how far the quote unquote Iron Man can go when it comes to CWF Rumble. He is the Iron Man of the Rumble. If you don't know that, this week Grant Sawyer put out the CWF Rumble record book online, which you can read all the numbers and all the stats from if you're into that kind of thing. And Ethan is the Iron Man. He spent more time in the ring and lasted longer than anyone in CWF Rumble history.
I think that's going to get broken, but we'll get into that later.
As for now,
Joe always getting heat with the assumptions. I didn't assume. I just said, hey, maybe they just needed to fill content.
Yeah, know what you do when you assume, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Might as well be sticking your thumb up your butt. But anyway. Hey, this isn't PG, folks. Well, it could be, but anyway. I need to stop cursing. That's one thing I've noticed. I put that out on Twitter the other day. I need to stop cursing. One thing I've noticed in the intro to this show is like I curse every other word. But we got you mentioned Coda coming from Boogie's camp, and I like how CL Party again following rule number 1, and it's not just me following rule number 1. We got how Eric Andrews is a graduate of Boogie's camp. He's also mentioned it on this show. He's also mentioning Sis, who we haven't seen for a while, is a graduate of Boogie's camp. In fact, if you go back on the channel, cheap plug, you'll find interviews with both of those CWF stars, and Sis, and they both talk a little bit about their training at Boogie's camp. So if you'd like to get a little bit of an idea of what that's like, can we talk about the fact that Jesse Ortega is still in the 05 Rumble? Jesus. Anyway, but if you'd like to get an idea of what it's like to train at Boogie's camp, feel free to go back into the archives here on the channel, and you can find all the official, unofficial CWF Mid-Atlantic After Show episodes in one convenient playlist here on the channel, so you don't have to dig around for them. They're all there in one place. I put here, Koga has good facial expressions. That's the first thing I noticed about him. It wasn't, it not only was his ring gear, but it was his facial expressions. We have a new referee. They made mention that even the referee was an RGL standout, which, note to the ref, tuck your shirt in. Tuck your shirt in, please, boy. Even though the crowd was light because it is an RGL show, the crowd was very into it, very energetic. And again, that always enables Ethan Alexander Sharp to play to the crowd, just like you mentioned, JB. We got the bus driver elbow. Grant has to tell the referee to raise Ethan's hand. But, hey, we'll give the ref a pass tonight. He's a new guy.
It's RGL, Joe. It's RGL. That's what we're here for.
That's why I didn't take too many notes tonight, because I was sitting there going, I can't nitpick this tonight. I can't be my usual self.
I honestly, I didn't take a lot of notes because I wanted to sit back and enjoy it for what it was.
Yeah, me too.
If I sit and note take, I tend to get lost in my notes and I'm not watching the show. And when I'm doing that, it gets a bit cumbersome when I try to regurgitate what happened. When I watch it for what it is, it's much easier. And even last week when we had just a stupendous show with Eric and Trevor, I still took time, paused, watched a little bit, paused again, and I kind of hate doing that when I have to take notes. And to not, but it's a necessary evil when you're trying to really be critical in the best way possible of a great match. But this show is just like if I would be there, I'd want to sit back and just watch it for what it is.
Welcome to my world every week. But I love doing it. So they had a really good match. That bus driver elbow is just over like Rover with me, man. I love that move.
It's the follow through in the cell that
yes.
is why it works. It's not just coming through and hitting the move. It's exaggerated follow through and sell, and making sure that everyone knows that he just hit them with something that was lethal.
And the match was just good. I expected Ethan to go over. As far as Bellamy Koga, I don't know if he's a regular at the dojo or if he's one of the guys that got brung in for the seminar that they were having that day. I'd like to see more of him again. There's not a person on this show that I wouldn't like to see more of again. So Johnny P in the chat room going, we got another FanCon panel participant in here. And hey, it's not just FanCon panel participants. If you're listening to this show for the first time, I encourage you to listen to it live because we often have people like Johnny P, and other CWF superstars in our chat room here on YouTube. So feel free to come in here and watch us live every week at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. And
Joe, how do they access the chat room?
They access the chat room just by going to the YouTube page. It's youtube.com/c/from pillar to post. Also, follow me on Twitter at Joe Pillar to Post. The Twitter handle is on your screen. I post links to the show often to where you can go on there. You just click the link to listen live, and the chat room is right there on the right-hand side of your screen. So, yeah, that's how you can access that chat room.
Excellent.
Thank you. We then got a promo from Faye Jackson.
Yeah, speaking of people I want to see more of.
Yeah, hell yeah. You've never... I got to be honest, we got some women on the show tonight, and I was a happy boy. We got women. It's great. We actually got women who are not promo bot 3000s. It's beautiful. And Faye Jackson.
I'm a huge fan of Faye. Listen,
Me too.
I'm gonna put it out there. If you've not seen Faye's work in Nova Pro, check it out. And a cheap plug, not really a cheap plug, but a plug for my friends over at Powerbomb.tv. Subscribe. You can get great independent wrestling. They're true supporters of independent wrestling, unlike some folks. And we'll need to go mention the end of that story. We've already talked about that in the past. But my friends over at Powerbomb.tv, great guys over there. And you can watch Nova Pro on Powerbomb.tv there, and you can see a lot of Faye Jackson on there. She's a super talented individual, fun-loving, but a great talent in the ring.
And she's beautiful.
Absolutely.
She is beautiful.
And I cannot wait to see her next week on Worldwide.
And if I knew what yard she was there, her milkshake would definitely bring me to it.
You could find it. You could find it.
Oh, man. Then we had the Thomas Munoz, or Tommy Munoz.
I believe it was Munoz, actually.
Versus Kane Justice. I'm going to start off here on this one because I did take a few notes here.
I've got a few notes on this one, too.
Munoz reminds me, the first time I saw him, I was like, he looks like Killian Dane without the back hair. He's awesome. I want to see, and I like the fact that they said he's come back. He showed up once before, just hoping to get a spot, didn't, and then they told him about the seminar, and he came all the way, I believe they said, from Texas for this thing.
That's correct.
And he gets to wrestle Kane Justice, who has had a hell of a year, in his first ever CWF match. The only thing I have to say here, and again, this is me kind of nitpicking. I know these are RGL guys. I know they're probably, per RGL standards, they have to be 3 years in the business, or within 3 years of the business. I'm a stickler for ring gear. I'm a ring gear mark, I guess you could say. I like pretty ring gear, and I'm quick to call people out on their ring gear. Thomas needs better ring gear. I look here and I'm sitting here going, this is what RGL is all about. Again, you kind of put Kane Justice in perspective for me last week, which CL was glad that you did. CL was glad that you did.
Hey, somebody had to.
Somebody had to put me in my place. But here we have Kane Justice still competing in the RG. He's RGL champion, but you kind of forget with him here in the last few months, even though he's been feuding with Dirty Daddy, but the stuff he's done at the beginning and the middle of this year, you kind of forgot what the RGL League was all about. Especially with Dirty Daddy being with Showtime, Kane Justice doing the matches with Mitch Connor and Cecil Scott. You kind of forgot what the RGL was all about until tonight. This kind of brung it back for you, reminded you, hey, these RGL guys are up and comers. This is the future. Just as you said here about FanCon and not putting those panels up. You don't know who's going to come in, and you don't know who's going to leave. And this was a good reminder of that tonight. So it's Kane. He's had a lot of experience. He's almost a year in the business. And then you have, it's like Kane's a young guy, but he's going against a younger guy. It's hard for me to put into words what I felt when I saw Kane on an RGL branded show now. And I like when Kane did like an arm whip or an arm drag, and Thomas sold it by bumping on his shoulder, on the shoulder that he was being drugged from, which was, I don't know if he meant to do that, but I'm glad he did because it made it look better. Kane, we saw a little bit more heel work from Kane than usual. He's biting people in this match.
It was a nice addition to that.
Yes.
Grabbing a hand and biting. I mean, it's a vicious side. It's a vicious side to being a heel.
He's grabbing an armbar and biting, and then he quickly switches over, grabs the armbar on the other side, and bites him on that hand too. CL Party, quick to tell us that Thomas might want to get checked out. We checked and see if he's had his rabies shots, because you never know what Kane is carrying. And to that point, I'm sitting there going, the kid's 21 years old. But you never know nowadays.
You can live a lot before 21.
Yeah. Match ended with a kick to the back of the head. I put here big capital letters, good match. I enjoyed this one a ton. What were your thoughts, JB?
I really enjoyed it as well. One of the things that was mentioned in commentary, I don't know if you mentioned it, they talked about Tommy had been traveling all around the country. Mm-hmm. And he had been to 20. His goal was to wrestle in 26 states before he was 26 years old.
That's crazy.
He's wrestled in 23, I believe, at this point. So 23 states before you're 26, and that's pretty amazing. I thought it was interesting too that, seeing someone like I believe his nickname was the Texas Tank Engine. I believe it was his nickname. Apropos for the body size, I love unique body sizes. I don't want cookie cutter wrestlers. I want guys coming out who look different. Yes. He looks different. He wrestles different. Everything about him was unique, and that's what we want. He came out, gave a great match to Kane. It's interesting that Kane finished the match not with his traditional finisher, but that big, side savate types. Martial arts kick to the back of the head and goes for the pin. I thought maybe he was going for the kick and then just roll him over and get him into the finish, but no, right to the pin. So it was a good match, solid match. Really would like to see more of Tommy Munoz.
I would definitely like to see more of him. I believe somebody either on Twitter, I think it was Johnny P called him Thomas the Tank Engine. And I was just like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. No, come on, not to this guy. You can't do that to this guy. Although he did go do the choo in the corner, and I'm just like, no, don't do that. No, please. But I want to see more of the guy. I really do.
One other note I had as well is I thought that in this match alone, Kane was showing more of that quote-unquote shitty heel side.
Yes.
Where he really was putting it on.
Mm-hmm.
With the facials and with the biting of the hand and things of that nature. Showing a different side of him, but not something that was totally vicious, but just vicious enough to just say that I can do this. Not only can I break your arm, not only can I break you down, but I'll bite your hand too. Yeah. So that's a different level of psychology. It's the idea that I'm not biting your hand because I have to, but because I want to.
I look at it this way. It's kind of like Kane sitting there going, I'm above these RGL guys now. Yes. I think that's even though he's RGL champion, the theme I've gotten from him as his year has progressed is that he now feels like he's above everybody in that division. It's almost like he's too good for that division, but I'm just going to keep the title anyway because I can.
Yes.
So it was a very good match. I hope we see more Thomas the Tank Engine in the future. I'm not going to call him that anymore. It's going to be the last time I call him.
I'm looking at it here on Twitter. If you want to try to follow Tommy,
I looked for him. I couldn't find him.
He is Tank Engine Tommy, and he is at Texas Tank Engine.
Got to follow this guy.
He is from Red Rock, Texas. So gives you an idea of who he is, and I'm sure he's willing to be booked because he's traveling everywhere.
He looks so different in his Twitter prick. He really does. That's I saw him and I'm like, the long hair, the big beefy body. I was like, that's Killian Dane right there without the back hair. And I'm a huge Killian Dane fan down in NXT, and I hate to sit there and compare people like that, but hey, this kid's got something, and I hope we see more of him.
Absolutely.
So we then got a 6-person tag match, 6-wrestler tag match, with the All-Stars coming out. This time it was the complete faction of the All-Stars, so to speak. And I don't know what they're ever going to fill the third man that Chappie left behind. But it seems...
He that shall not be talked about or she be mentioned. Yes,
Oh,
Chappie.
God, yeah. Oh, man. I'll be honest. I was surprised when everybody was like, Chappie was Chappie, and that's why he got fired. And then I thought they're working my ass in the chat room. And then I sit there and I talk to people, I talked to people at a show one day, and they were like, yeah, excuse the language, but he freaking sucked. So, but Mace Lee, who I guess is a newcomer, I haven't seen him before. Roy Wilkins and Eric Royal of the All-Stars with, of course, Coach Gemini and Jerry Carey, taking on Snooty Fox, Alley Cat, who I know, shout out to Papa Hales, because Papa Hales introduced me to Alley Cat online. He kept tweeting about her. And then I was like, I checked out her Twitter profile, checked out a few of her matches. I was like, this chick has it. The gimmick may not be for everybody, but she's a hell of a worker. She's a beautiful woman. And so when I found out she was on tonight, I was like, hell yeah, we get an Alley Cat match in CWF. And they were the returning, the one that I thought he was out of the business. From what I was even told in the chat room here months ago when we first started the after show, I mentioned him and people were like, he's injured, he's out. The returning Jesse Adler.
I was shocked as well because that's kind of the story that I've been told, and I'm not saying that I'm an insider, but I do get to hear a lot of things that most people don't get to hear sometimes, and I was really shocked to see Jesse was back, and once I heard this, CWF regular Sophia Moon, she was, I believe, texting with Johnny P and saying, Jesse Adler's back, because she was at the show, she was the RGL show, and I was shocked as hell as well to see that. Jesse, I was there the night that he got hurt and was put out for a while, and Brad talking about the rumors of him having knee surgery. I mean, that was the story that everybody was saying, and wasn't really expecting him to come back.
I wasn't either.
I'd heard, and maybe someone could tell me, and maybe Johnny can correct me on this as well, but Jesse had been at a couple of shows, maybe one or two shows as a fan, and had shown up, but I wasn't expecting Jesse to be back in the ring, and he looked good. He looked really good.
I want to say the first time I saw that he was back was I would have to go back and look at the results. Spoiler alert, I think he wrestles in Chapel Hill. He wrestled in Chapel Hill.
He does.
So that's when I learned that he was back, and then to see him back here on this show, I was even more shocked, because I marked out on Twitter, I was like, holy shit, Jesse Adler's back, It's always nice when you see somebody return like that, especially somebody who I think they were pushing heavily,
He's a young guy, too.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got a lot of years ahead of him, and that was what really was kind of sad about the whole situation, that if he was hurt and legit hurt and had knee issues and had to have knee surgery at a young age, I know what that's all about. I had that happen to me when I was an athlete. I played baseball at a high level and even played college baseball, and I've had 5 knee surgeries, since I was 17. So I understand that, and I know what rehab's like. It sucks, and I'm happy for Jesse. If he's back doing what he loves, it's amazing. Really happy for him.
Knee issues ruined my high school wrestling, quote-unquote, career, so I definitely know what it's like to have knee issues. It sucks. I'm still dealing with it to this day. Grant Sawyer, a couple things here in the chat room here. That's another thing, folks. If you come into the chat room, we interact with you. And we actually, unlike other YouTubers, we'll read the chat room. The All-Stars is Mace Medea.
He is no. Let me. I'll
Please
drop it on
correct
you.
me.
Maeda, I believe, is who he was or supposedly was, and now he is Mace Lee. And according to Jerry Carey, he's the fifth cousin of Jet Li, half removed. So
he
go figure.
He lost a loser leaves match a year ago. This is a very similar person called Mace Lee, and Grant saw you put under that shenanigans.
Yes.
Johnny P talking about Adler. He was backstage, or he was at Battlecade visiting. We met afterwards. I didn't know it was him. Cecil told me right after we shook hands. He's been getting back in shape for a while. And Johnny P goes, I asked Sophia how heavy he was, thinking he still carried the weight, but he looked great. I want to say, I'll let you lead off, but I want to say here before we start, Jesse Adler has not missed a damn step.
No.
Not a bit. There's no ring rust on that kid. I don't know if this was his. I'm sure he's been down at the dojo getting the ring rust off or whatever the case may be. But as far as his first match back, he hadn't missed a step. He hasn't changed the god-awful ring gear.
Hey. It's Van Halen inspired. What are you talking about? Come on, the boy comes out to Panama by Van Halen. I gotta love that.
Here's the problem, though. When it doesn't change at all and it's the same ring gear every show, I know ring gear's expensive, but anyway, again, I'm a ring gear mark. Like I said, it's the little crap that gets to me. And I wrote down a couple things during this match that got to me and that are pet peeves of mine when it comes to wrestling. But I'll let you start off here. What did you think about this 6-person match?
First of all, anytime you have 6 people in the ring or 6 people involved in a match, and we have more than 6 really involved with this, considering we have 2 on the outside, it can really either go one or two ways, really great, or turn into a total cluster. And this match did not do that. There was stories being told between all of the combatants. You have a story where Alley Cat obviously is the only female combatant in this match, and she comes out looking great, and you want to see more of her. You have the story of Jesse Adler coming back, former RGL champion, here on an RGL show, making his first appearance back in the Sportatorium in more than a year after being hurt. Then you have the connection with Eric Royal, who's the guy who put him out. And then you also have the intertwining story between Snooty Fox and Eric Royal for the upcoming show. It's already happened, but it's going to be shown on Worldwide, in the coming weeks from Chapel Hill. And of course, you got Roy, and as my friend Spence calls him, the God Wilkins. Roy, who is the wrestling god, the wrestling guru of CWF. Anytime he's in a match, I'm watching. So you have all these different personalities and everybody intertwining. I really thought it was well told, and a little bit of shenanigans, a little bit of the Gaga this week with the coach, obviously, and I guess Gaga apropos since Alley Cat comes out to Lady Gaga music. But it was a well-told story, but and it wasn't one of those matches where you're like, oh God, they got 6 people, they're going to drag this thing out for 25 minutes, and it's going to bore me to tears. Not at all. It was very well crafted.
A couple things here. Was this the first time you've seen Alley Cat?
I've seen her on tape. I've seen her on a tape, showing my age here, tape, like back in the day when I was tape trading. Good God. I've seen her on the YouTube, on the Google.
On the interwebs.
On the interwebs, on the inner tubes. I've seen her online, and she's super talented, but it's the first time I've actually really seen a full match. I've just seen clips, pieces here and there, and of course, as you mentioned earlier, the great Papa Hells, who will be at FanCon, coming in for FanCon, is the one who's touted Alley Cat, and she is I believe she's a Texas girl as well. She's a Texas product coming in and traveling all around the country, wrestling. But it's the first time I've seen her, you know, for an extended amount of time. She's super talented. She got in there, mixed it up, and it wasn't one of those things where it was me totally suspending my disbelief when it comes to intergender wrestling. She legit looked like she belonged in there, and there was, but it wasn't something that was, you know, insulting my intelligence completely. And I have my own take when it comes to intergender wrestling. I can take it or leave it, to be honest, but to me, she showed why she belongs in the ring and why they picked her as the top candidate out of the one-day camp that they did there at the Sportatorium. Super talented female, and hope to see more of her.
I'm the same way. I could take or leave intergender wrestling. I'm a firm believer of, I mean, I'll put it this way. I don't get when people go, why is she in there with 3 guys? Why isn't she wrestling a woman? And to me, that smells of a total, I hate to use the word because to some degree we all are one. That's a total freaking mark, because I'm sitting here looking at you going, you have no freaking idea what you're talking about, because I guarantee you, if you go back to when she was trained, these people train with men.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know, it's only in the WWE that actually has their classes divided. But 9 times out of 10, they train with the men. So it's not like they haven't taken bumps off men or given bumps to men before. You know,
and for me too, I'm a father of 3, and all 3 of them are daughters. You know, so I'm partial. So, and my 2 youngest, of course, are hardcore wrestling fans, and seeing someone like this in the ring, and I can't wait to sit down with my daughters tomorrow night and actually rewatch Worldwide and give them a chance to see Alley Cat for the first time.
Nice. I got a question. Well, you have daughters, so it probably wasn't prevalent with you. They know it's a work, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, you know, first of all, Joe, my middle daughter is the CWF junior booker.
Right.
So
right.
Enough said, right? Enough
Well,
said.
I mean, I say that because I tell the story all the time of my son. He, you know, he's always watched wrestling from the day he was born. Literally, the Monday after he was born, he saw Triple H on the TV, and his eyes lit up. He couldn't take his eyes off the TV. So he's literally been around it since literally almost since the day he was born. He has a couple mental illnesses with ADHD and ODD. So before he was on the medication, he was going to school hitting people. And it broke my heart to have to finally sit down and explain to him it's not real. They're not really hitting each other like that. So he gets it now, and he even gets it now to the point where we were watching Raw a couple weeks back when they didn't come out. It was the first week where they didn't come out and cut a 20-minute promo. They actually came out and started with a match. And my son looked at me and goes, nobody's coming out to talk. They're starting with a match for a change. So, out of the mouths of babes, man. It's like and again, I say it on Twitter all the time. WWE, your target audience knows it's bullshit. So there you go. But I have a couple things here. The cat gimmick. What do you think about her coming out with the purring and the on her back, pawing at the air and sniffing the guys? And to me, that to some people that can seem a bit kabuki-ish. And I know a lot of people probably think that I think it seems a bit kabuki-ish, but I actually like it. So what are your thoughts on the cat gimmick?
I dig it. I was of course, I'm throwing back and showing my age a little bit, and loving the old Batman series with Adam West, and I'm thinking Catwoman. I'm thinking, you know, Lee Merriweather. I'm thinking Eartha Kitt. You know, I'm thinking, you know, those classic actresses who were playing Catwoman, and you know, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking automatically this is almost like an homage in it with a new flair.
I'll go one step beyond. I'm a Broadway guy. I know, I'm a nerd. I love Broadway. I love musicals.
So you'll throw Cats in there.
Yes,
okay.
I was gonna say, what about Cats, man? You know, she's not out there wearing fur. She's got the face paint on with the whiskers and the tail on the tights, and I think that's about as far as she needs to take it. But it reminded me of Cats, literally. So, I know a lot of people think Joe's going to crap all over this gimmick. Nope, I liked it. The only thing I didn't agree with, and this, again, it's a pet peeve of mine, I never will understand it. Why do people got to chew gum during a match?
It's something.
I know.
I have heard this for years, Joe, and I've seen people debate it back and forth. And there's some of the best wrestlers in the world who have done it.
Shawn Michaels, Triple H.
Well, don't get me started on Shawn Michaels, but we'll be here all night talking about my mistake.
No.
But
I can't stand him either. But anyway.
But whether it was Kurt Hennig or whoever, there's lots of great wrestlers who chew gum in a ring, and yeah, it can be a bit distracting, especially if you're noticing it. And once you notice it, it's one of those things. It's one of those parts of the match that it's just going to stick with you. And obviously, it's hit you, so there you go.
I looked at it. I'm like, you're sitting there sniffing people and borderline sniffing crotches, which cats can do, and sniffing legs. And then I'm like, cats can also chew gum. Right. That's just what I got from it. I'm like, here you are hardcore selling this cat gimmick, and all of a sudden you start gnawing down on a piece of gum. But maybe it's a cat treat. Who knows? I love this match, and it answered my questions. I'm sitting here writing down, I'm sitting there going, there's not a whole lot of Alley Cat in this match, and I was popping for it. I was like, oh, hell yeah, I actually get to see Alley Cat in a match now, And I'm sitting there going, where's she at? I enjoy looking at her beautiful self right there on the apron, but I want to see her work too. And then by the time I wrote that down, not much Alley Cat. The hot tag was made. So I was like, damn it, Stutz, you did it again.
It's called the build, Joe. It's the build.
Yes.
That's how you're supposed to. And, in this match, everyone is building to see the female participant to come in the ring.
That's right.
And at that point, it was time. And
right.
Go ahead and tell the rest of the story.
I like the fact that they played up off of the Eric Royal Snooty Fox bit. Again, building to this Chapel Hill match. They've been building it up for almost a good solid month now. And it's been beautiful. The fact that, yes, folks, indie promotions can tell stories. So, on YouTube for no less. I put here, Lee impressed me, and I thought I had, seen him before. Now that Grant said something in our chat room, it all comes back, and yes, we have seen him before, but it's kind of like we're seeing a new Lee here, obviously. I put here Royal and Snooty hype. I'm glad to see those two. I was excited to see Snooty Fox tonight. There's a change in my direction. And I thought Snooty did absolutely excellent in this match. We get the hot tag at the end of the match. A big boot by Alley Cat. She's throwing knees around. She German suplexed Eric Royal beautifully. We got a Sammy Kershaw reference. I'm an old,
That's which I pop big for.
I'm an old school country music fan, and I'm hoping that's what it was leaning to, because is Sammy Kershaw. Hell, we've heard.
Of course, that's Clayton Kershaw, the pitcher for the Dodgers that the coach is representing. But yeah, I pop big for that too. I was actually working in radio in the middle of the '90s and was working at a country station, and of course, Sammy Kershaw was huge during that time period. So I pop for that as well.
Hey, Don't Go Near the Water is still a kick-ass song.
Yard Sale will make you cry. Now.
Oh yeah,
that song will make you cry. So there you go. Now we're gonna scare everybody off with our country knowledge here, Joe. Let's move on.
It's mid '90s country, which is probably the best era in country music. Now it's hip hop with the banjo. So anyway. But she, Cat whips Coach, and with his own belt. And we got the oh God every single time from Brad Stutz. We haven't gotten a oh God from Stutzy in quite a while, I think. And folks, you know how much I love the oh God from him. It's built into our intro, for crying out loud. The finish came. I laughed my ass off for this because she pants his coach.
Yes.
He's wearing Hello Kitty panties or underwear.
Yes, he is.
And
Yes, he
CL,
is.
again, thou must put over CL Party. And I think rule number 2 is now thou must put over Alley Cat because she did this beautifully. CL, I'm laughing my ass off just thinking about it. I'm sorry. She goes, Stutz goes, those are Hello Kitty panties. And she goes, Hello Kitty. Her delivery of that was so damn funny. And then Coach sits on the fans at ringside. And if
he didn't just sit on the fans. Let me give you a little insight here.
Yeah.
Of course, anybody who's watched the CWF shows regularly on YouTube with Worldwide, who have been to the shows, that is a regular fan,
yes.
A regular part of the front row there. That's Jimmy Harris and the Harris family. Coach Gemini comes and sits on his lap in his Hello Kitty underwear, and Jimmy's laughing and having a good time, and it's all part of the show. He knows the business and loves it, and actually runs some shows on his own. But Jimmy and the Harris family are as big a part of the Sportatorium and Worldwide each week as sometimes the people in the ring.
That entire front row is pretty much the Harris family, isn't it?
Yes, it is for the most part.
But they, he sits right on Mr. Harris, and Mr. Harris is selling it. And if you've ever sat behind Mr. Harris can have a bit of a mouth on him some weeks. He's a manly man. So to see him do that to Mr. Harris, it made it better. It made it 10 times better. Cat does a headbutt on Lee for the win. I couldn't have been happier with this match. I love the idea that we didn't see much Alley Cat until the end, and it made her seem that much more important or better.
Yes,
sometimes less is more. You know?
And can I mention something else that we didn't mention along the way? Maybe my favorite call of the year for Brad Stutz tonight, and I think it may even got a little unnoticed. You had to listen to it. There was a move in the match that was going on, and he said, "Yeah, that's the move that Cecil knows the name of that I don't know." That was my favorite call of the year so far. That's one of those moves that Cecil knows and will call it out, but I don't know what it is. It's one of those Japanese special moves from some Kings Row match from 1995 that I have no clue about.
He also mentioned something kind of cryptic to CL. He's like, "I'll tell you after the show what a."
Yeah, we'll leave that one for later. That's cutting room floor.
Oh, okay. You can tell me afterwards, because I was like, this is over my freaking head. But the way he said it, I'm like, is Stutz trying to perv on CL?
We'll talk about it later.
I'm sitting there going, everybody else in the damn company does. Why not Brad, too? And then I'm sitting there going, was Katie sitting in front of the commentary table when he said that? Oh, shit. The wonderful world of Stutzy's commentary, folks. Oh, man.
Hidden gems, hidden jewels.
That was our episode, so I guess for an episode of, again, this is a milestone. We had a 100. It's hard to believe. It's a milestone for me because I've been covering this now for, golly, how many of these shows do I have in that damn playlist? Let me go take a look here. I've been covering it for at least 25 weeks. I know that much because I know I covered episode 100 and a couple episodes before then. So, yeah, rounding third base is what Johnny P says.
Yeah, we'll leave that for later.
Leave it all. Kayfabe. Anyway.
Kayfabe.
So I've been doing this now. This is the 24th week that I've been doing this. And so to get to episode 125 is a milestone for the company. 125 may not seem like much, but it seems like once they get, I wonder if they're going to do something special for episode 150. And the fact that they're probably going to be around that long. Most TV shows don't even make it past 100 episodes nowadays. So it's quite an accomplishment.
It is.
Any other thoughts here on this episode, JB?
all I want to say is, if you look at this on the YouTube playlist and you say, "Oh, it's an RGL show," I think I'll pass. You're doing yourself a serious disservice. Watch this episode. It was entertaining as hell. You get to see some new talent and some familiar faces interacting with each other in different ways, and it is, once again, it's logical, it's storytelling, it's what CWF is all about, and the reason why we love it and talking about it tonight.
I gotta tell you, it just, as I say in our intro, everything matters. Everything makes sense. I hope to God that we see more Alley Cat. I'm looking forward to seeing Faye next week. I want to see, and I've been championing for this ever since I started going to these shows. I looked at my Facebook feed a couple of days ago, and it was like 2 years ago where I put on Facebook how hyped I was to be going to my first Rumble. So it to sit here, I've kind of been campaigning since then to have more women's wrestling on CWF, and I know the response from Grant and even from Brad that I got when I interviewed Brad a couple years ago was that our plate is full with the rest of the roster. It's kind of hard for us to book that. So it's nice now, 2 years later, to actually see them having more and more women on the show, and to see them, not to sound tacky here or hokey, but to give them a chance. Whether it be wrestling with guys, whether it be doing, Sis versus Priscilla Kelly. If you've seen the screenshots from the Chapel Hill shows with Faye and Kane, spoiler alert, it makes me smile to see more and more women coming into this company.
Yeah, and really, Joe, I think they do it right here. They're putting it in where it makes sense and where it's logical and where it works. We don't need to go back to the days where we're just running women out on a show as just part of a side show. They need to be an active, real part of the show. And what CWF has done to incorporate women into the product is to be commended, really.
Because it's not like you said, it's not like we can just throw women out there and have a match. It has to have some, with CWF, yes, they could go out there and just have matches every week. They could just do that to fill time if they wanted to, but they don't. Every match means something. Whether it's bringing new people in like Priscilla Kelly and letting you get a chance to, and it helps promote. Sometimes it's not just to promote CWF, it's helped to promote the business because they really put over the fact that she's the, a Shine champion. So it helps promote the business. There was a time when I can remember Vince McMahon always quoting, "It's good for the business. It's good for the business," So, and I think when Vince used to say that, it was meant overall business, not just WWE. So when they bring in these women, like Faye Jackson, Alley Cat, when they bring in Priscilla Kelly, when they bring in Aspen Rose, it's for the good of the business, and it just makes sense. It makes sense to have them there. Any other thoughts on this episode before we close it out tonight?
Not really. I think we've said enough.
All right, folks, we're going to get out of here. JB, you going to stay on the line with me for a minute? Because I got to know what was on the cutting room floor now.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
We're going to leave it there, folks. We'd like to, next week, I'll give Rumble predictions. I wish we knew an undercard for that. Speaking of the Rumble, before we go.
That's part of the beauty.
Yeah. Speaking of the Rumble, we now have keep an eye on the CWF Mid-Atlantic Twitter, because at 10:14 a.m. and at 10:14 p.m. every day leading up into the Rumble, they are going to announce the participants. So you're going to get 2 participants a day. So far, Ethan Alexander Sharp, Trevor Lee, of course, Caprice Coleman. It's always nice seeing Caprice.
Absolutely.
Rick Converse, Brad Attitude. Of course, Trevor Lee is going to be in there. And we have to assume, I think we were talking about this off air, Eric Royal and Roy Wilkins will probably be a part of that. I mean, it's Roy Wilkins' golden ticket. So why would he not be in the match?
I believe he would have to be.
But thank you, JB, for coming back this week.
No problem.
It's always It was awesome having you on these last 2 weeks. I'll be honest with you. It just makes the show that much better when I have somebody to bounce things off of. It's awesome. But, folks, follow us on Twitter. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and more importantly, share. Hit that share button. Share us on Twitter. Share us on Facebook. We do have some new subscribers to talk about this week, so I'll go ahead and throw them up here while I am thinking about it, if it will show up for me here. OBS has been giving me quite a fit, so I'm hoping to God these show up. Let me see here. I have to give these guys a shout out here. That's my promise to you guys. Every time you hit that subscribe button, you get a shout out, whether it be on Twitch or on Twitter. We have our old friend here from Twitch. I don't know if it's going to play or not because I don't have that plug-in enabled, but our old pal Jalopy Style, who has done interviews with me on the channel or has done podcasts with me on the channel. Our good buddy Derek, he followed us on Twitch. We thank you very much for that. And we got a brand new YouTube subscriber. OBS is going to be a bitch tonight. Matthew Acosta has subscribed to us on YouTube. We want to thank you very much for subscribing to us there.
Matt is a great guy.
Yes, he
is. Huge CWF fan and a fan of independent wrestling all around. Matt, can't wait to see you at the Rumble, buddy.
I think he said he may not be able to come to FanCon, but he said he did advertise that he bought tickets for the Rumble. So that's good.
The young guy just got a brand new job. Let him work, and we'll see him at the Rumble.
Wish I could say the same, but anyway, folks, we're gonna go out here, put out cheese curds and cheerwine shakes next Friday for Grant Sawyer to come bring presents. Cheese curds and cheerwine shakes. Oh man, just put out Poontine. If you're just gonna do the cheese curds, you might as well go all the way. But anyway, that's gonna do it for us, folks. We'll see you at the Sportatorium.